Picture this: a tour bus rolling through the streets of Pittsburgh. No music playing inside. No entourage laughing. No celebration. Just a man sitting in silence, jaw tight, eyes forward, staring at nothing and everything at the same time. The undisputed WWE Champion, Cody Rhodes. The American Nightmare. A man who has climbed mountains, finished stories, and stood in the center of the grandest stages professional wrestling has to offer, and yet, somehow, on the night of March 27, 2026, none of that mattered. None of that history. None of that glory. Because for the first time in a long time, Cody Rhodes wasn't showing up to SmackDown to cut a promo. He wasn't there to sign a contract, shake a hand, or lay out a WrestleMania blueprint. He was there for one reason and one reason only: Randy Orton. And what happened inside PPG Paints Arena that night in front of a Pittsburgh crowd absolutely buzzing with anticipation was the kind of television moment that reminds you exactly why professional wrestling, at its very best, is unlike anything else in the world. But let's back up, because to truly understand what exploded in Pittsburgh, you need to understand the wound that opened it. Just 2 weeks earlier, on a Friday night that started like any other and ended like nothing any of us had ever expected, Randy Orton turned his back on Cody Rhodes. Not in some subtle, ambiguous way. Not with a slow heel turn you could debate on message boards for weeks. No, Randy Orton looked Cody Rhodes in the eyes, a man he had stood beside, a man the WWE Universe had cheered for together, a man who represented something pure about this era of WWE, and he took him apart. Physically, psychologically, completely. The attack was vicious, calculated, and delivered with that particular brand of Orton cruelty that doesn't just hurt your body. It hurts your trust. And then, Randy Orton got on a microphone and told the world he wasn't sorry, that for years he had been suppressing something. The voices. The darkness that used to define him. The part of Randy Orton that made him the most dangerous man in this industry. And that Cody Rhodes, the man who had invited him back into this spotlight, the man who had welcomed him as a WrestleMania opponent with open arms, had given him the perfect reason to let it all come back out. Orton stood in the middle of the ring with that blood-stained shirt still on, looking every bit the apex predator he'd always been, and told the world that for the first time in years, he was allowing the voices to guide him. And those voices? They were leading him to a 15th World Championship. Cody Rhodes was nowhere to be seen the following week. And the week after that, the champion was off television, healing, processing, regrouping. And in his absence, Randy Orton did what Randy Orton does best: he filled the void. He walked into SmackDown week after week with that slow, deliberate strut, that half-smile curling at the corner of his mouth, and he reminded everyone watching that he was in control. He dominated Matt Cardona on the microphone with such surgical precision that even wrestlers in the locker room were reportedly wincing. Cardona, who had been defending Cody's honor, who had stepped up when the champion wasn't there, became Orton's verbal punching bag. And last week, when Orton wrapped a steel chair around Matt Cardona's arm and stomped on it until something snapped, it stopped being entertainment and started being something darker. It was a message, wrapped in steel, and it was addressed to Cody Rhodes. So when the road to WrestleMania came to Pittsburgh on March 27, the City of Steel knew something was in the air. The crowd inside PPG Paints Arena was electric from the opening bell, but there was tension underneath that electricity, and edge. The kind of edge that only appears when the audience knows that what they're about to witness isn't scripted confrontation, it's a collision of two men who genuinely can't stand each other anymore. And it all started, like so many great SmackDown nights do, with Randy Orton's music hitting and the Viper walking down that ramp. Orton opened the show without remorse. He looked out at the Pittsburgh crowd with that practiced calm, the calm of a man who has stood in arenas for 20+ years and learned to treat the audience like background noise when it suits him. He acknowledged that yes, he had broken Matt Cardona's arm. And yes, the WWE Champion had apparently endorsed this rivalry. He wanted this. Orton said it with a smile. He told Cody Rhodes, wherever he was, that he couldn't be held responsible for what happened next. That the American Nightmare had asked for all of this. And that if you feed a snake long enough, eventually it bites. And then Matt Cardona walked out. Broken wrist. Cast on his arm. Fury in his eyes. You have to appreciate what Cardona was doing here. He'd been humiliated verbally for weeks, then physically destroyed, and rather than stay in the back with his arm elevated, he came back out into that arena because his pride simply wouldn't let him do anything else. There is something deeply human about that kind of stubbornness. Something you either admire or recognize in yourself. Cardona grabbed a microphone and started giving Orton a piece of his mind, and in the middle of that verbal exchange, he cracked Randy Orton across the skull with that mic. The impact was sudden. The crowd erupted. And Orton? He barely flinched. He just looked at Cardona with those cold, amused eyes, and in that look was everything you needed to know about the power dynamic it played out later that evening, after the match was made official and the crowd had spent the better part of an hour wondering when Cody's bus was going to pull up. Orton and Cardona met in the main event. It was never going to be competitive, not with Cardona compromised, not with Orton in this kind of headspace. The Viper was methodical, almost sadistic, in the way he went after that broken arm. He ripped the cast off. He twisted the joint in ways that made the audience visibly uncomfortable. He toyed with Cardona the way a cat toys with something it has already caught. And when the time came, when he'd had his fun and made his point, Orton dropped Matt Cardona with the RKO in the center of the ring. 1, 2, 3, easy, clinical, almost merciful in its finality. And then right at that moment, as Orton stood over Cardona with his hand raised and that infuriating smirk on his face, words started circulating through the arena. A murmur at first, then a buzz, then a full-throat roar from the Pittsburgh crowd as Jelly Roll, yes, the Grammy-nominated recording artist and die-hard WWE fan, appeared on the entrance ramp to announce to the building what it already desperately wanted to hear. Cody Rhodes was in the building. The American Nightmares bus had just pulled up outside PPG Paints Arena, and he was on his way to the ring. What followed was one of those rare stretches of television time where every second feels loaded. The cameras cut to the back. The gorilla position, the loading dock, and there was Cody Rhodes, moving through the arena with that focused, purposeful walk that separates the champions from everyone else. Nick Aldis, SmackDown's general manager, stepped in front of him with a hand raised and security flanking him on both sides. And Cody, without breaking stride, without raising his voice, told Aldis he was only there to talk, that he just wanted to have a conversation. Security parted. Aldis stepped aside. And Cody Rhodes walked out from behind that curtain. The noise in Pittsburgh was something else. The kind of crowd reaction that starts in your chest before it reaches your ears. They were on their feet, and they were loud, and they were hungry for exactly what they sensed was coming. Cody walked down that ramp with the Undisputed WWE Championship around his waist and something different in his eyes. No smile. No poses. No sunglasses flip for the hard camera. Just that cold, concentrated fury that you only see from a man who has been humiliated and has spent 2 weeks doing nothing but thinking about payback. Randy Orton stood in the ring and waited. And that, in itself, tells you something about who Orton is at his core. He didn't retreat. He didn't look for an exit. He wanted this confrontation just as badly as Cody did, because Randy Orton doesn't fear confrontation, he feeds on it. He turned to face the entrance ramp with that loose, dangerous energy that defines his character, and he watched Cody Rhodes close the distance. When the American Nightmare slid under the bottom rope, there was a moment, just a fraction of a second, where the entire arena seemed to hold its breath. And then they were swinging. No words. No speeches. Just fists. Cody Rhodes threw himself at Randy Orton with everything he had, and the two men erupted into a pull-apart brawl that security immediately swarmed. 12, 15, maybe more bodies in WWE-branded security gear poured into that ring, and it didn't matter. These two wouldn't separate. Rhodes was landing punches with that controlled, focused aggression, not wild haymakers, but the kind of sharp, intentional strikes that come from someone who isn't just angry, they're precise in their anger. And Orton gave some back, of course, because Orton always gives some back, but his offense was largely coming at the expense of the hapless security team that kept getting in the way. They spilled out of the ring. They fought at ringside. They fought through the crowd of personnel trying to get between them. The Pittsburgh audience was absolutely losing their minds, phones in the air, chanting, screaming, absolutely electric in that way that live sports entertainment becomes something almost tribal. This wasn't a choreographed ballet. This was two men who have genuine heat with each other, two performers who understand that the best moments in this industry come from letting the emotion feel real, and in that moment, it was as real as it gets. And then Jelly Roll made his mistake. Bless him. The big man from Nashville, who had walked out trying to play peacemaker between two freight trains, stepped into the ring just as things seemed to be calming down. He got between them. He put his hands up. He was trying to de-escalate, trying to be the voice of reason in a room full of chaos. And Randy Orton looked at him the way Randy Orton looks at everything that gets in his way, with brief acknowledgement followed by absolute indifference, and hit Jelly Roll with the RKO. Out of nowhere. Down he went. The crowd was split between shock and laughter and disbelief, and Orton just strolled back up the ramp, laughing. Genuinely laughing. While Cody Rhodes dropped to his knees to check on Jelly Roll on the mat below him. That image, Orton laughing his way up the ramp, Cody Rhodes kneeling over an unconscious celebrity in the ring, the Pittsburgh crowd buzzing with the residue of chaos. That image tells you everything you need to know about where this rivalry is right now. Randy Orton has fully released whatever leash he had on himself. He's not pretending to be a good guy anymore. He's not trying to play the crowd. He is the most dangerous man in WWE right now, and he knows it, and he wants you to know it too. And Cody Rhodes? Cody came back from 2 weeks off television and showed the world he is not going to be a victim in this story. He is not going to wait for WrestleMania to fight back. He came to Pittsburgh, walked through security, and put hands on Randy Orton in front of the entire WWE universe. Let's be honest about something. This is the WrestleMania 42 match. This is the one. You have the reigning undisputed WWE Champion who carries this company on his back walking into the grandest stage of them all against the apex predator who decided, somewhere along the way, that legacy and friendship and doing things the right way wasn't enough anymore. You have betrayal as the foundation. You have genuine heat that doesn't need manufactured controversy to sustain it. You have two of the best performers this industry has produced in the last 20 years, and they have not yet scratched the surface of how personal this is going to get before Allegiant Stadium hosts WrestleMania 42. Think about what's still on the table. Orton has referenced the voices guiding him. He's teased that there's someone he's been communicating with, someone we haven't seen yet, and he's dangled that mystery phone call in front of the audience like a lit fuse without a bomb attached to it yet. Who is on the other end of that line? What is being planned? And what about Cody? The man who finished the story, who climbed back from every obstacle this business could throw at him, now has to face the reality that one of his allies has become his most dangerous enemy. And from the fire in his eyes in Pittsburgh, it seems like Cody's response isn't going to be measured. It isn't going to be diplomatic. The American Nightmare came back different. And the next few weeks are going to show us exactly what that means. Pittsburgh was a statement from both men. Orton's statement is that he cannot be contained, cannot be reasoned with, and will RKO any one man, security guard, or Grammy-winning country rapper who gets in his way. Cody's statement is that he is not afraid, that he will walk through 15 security guards and into a ring with Randy Orton because the alternative, sitting on that bus and waiting, is not something the American Nightmare is capable of. These are two men who are constitutionally incapable of backing down, which means the road to WrestleMania 42 is going to escalate in ways we can barely imagine right now, and that is what makes professional wrestling magic. Not the athleticism alone, though it's extraordinary. Not the production value alone, though WWE has never looked better. It's the stories. It's the characters. It's moments like Cody Rhodes stepping off that bus in Pittsburgh with 2 weeks of fury coiled inside him and choosing to walk toward the fire instead of away from it. It's Randy Orton laughing as he walks up the ramp, unbothered and unrepentant, having just RKO'd an innocent bystander to prove a point. These are the moments you remember. These are the matches you mark on your calendar months in advance. And we are 6 weeks away from WrestleMania 42. 6 weeks. The fuse is lit, Pittsburgh sparked it, and everything between now and Allegiant Stadium is going to feel like a countdown to something extraordinary. If this got you fired up, if you were sitting there right now thinking about what Randy Orton's next move is, who's on the other end of that phone, and whether Cody Rhodes is going to show up on SmackDown next week ready to escalate this even further, you are exactly where the WWE wants you to be. And you are exactly the kind of fan that keeps this channel alive. Drop your WrestleMania 42 prediction in the comments. Rhodes retains, or does the Viper become a 15-time world champion in Las Vegas? Hit that like button if Pittsburgh delivered, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay locked into Wrestling Impact because we are covering every single moment of this road to WrestleMania, and trust me, we are just getting started.